I would be much more nervous about saying in a social situation with non-Catholics, I'm against gay marriage than about saying I'm against abortion. I've always felt for some reason that it's slightly more acceptable or understandable to people that you're against abortion, even though ironically, it probably the abortion issue probably affects way more people personally, in terms of the number of women who have availed themselves of that legal abortion option uh, versus the number of gay people, let alone the number of gay people who actually get married, right? But is that your sense as well, that for some reason there's actually,
I think it's
even though
very,
it's
I think,
been around less time, people understand it less if you
yeah,
are
I
opposed to
think,
gay
see,
marriage?
the thing about the life issue is people may have problems understanding why you think an unborn child is a child. But once you state that premise, they do understand why it's not okay to kill a person, right? So it fits more within the kind of classical liberal American cultural foundations. Marriage
Mm,
is a social institution, and we don't really understand social institutions and how they function in our
mm,
individualistic society. And one of the points about I used to make about marriage as a social institution, uh, which, as I said, exists in virtually every known human society, not always in the form, mostly not in the form that we have it, but visibly about getting a father for children and directing the erotic energies of the young in a way that is fruitful, right?
mhm,
So the the thing about a social institution is they arise to solve problems that are social, not individual and personal. So if you feel lonely and you'd like romantic love or whatever marriage means now to the culture, now that gay, two men can be a marriage, that's just your own personal problem, right? You wouldn't have a universal social institution if you didn't have this profound need that keeps it's rooted in human nature and keeps arising. And when you start looking at it that way, I don't think it's hard to find, which is basically sex makes babies, society needs babies, babies need a mom and a dad. You put those
mm,
three truths together and you get some version of marriage, right? And the reason why it's always considered not just a private and personal choice, but something that affects the whole society. And the reason why it's celebrated and encouraged rather than just one of many equally valid options. But it's never been universal. There's always been people who don't get married, and there, in most cultures, there are marriages that don't work out. And interestingly, divorce is often easier than it was in the classic Catholic or Protestant culture. But identifying a father for a child and sharing the responsibilities of raising those children in various ways is pretty much happens over and over again. And so, but I think that's a challenge. I would make this argument, and I would see that half the audience would be nodding their heads and they get it. The other half literally couldn't hear an argument in that. It's the only time I've really failed in being able to make myself understood. And it's partly because the debate was structured by the legal debate and they wanted a direct harm to an individual, right? That's the only thing they accepted. If two guys married, how does that hurt you? And I'm like, if there is no social institution to bring men and women together, it's going to hurt all of us. But they couldn't hear that argument.